Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at why Overlord gets so much hate recently and why most of it is just unjustified or based on generalizations. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my patrons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. And the first accusation often made against Overlord is that it is one of those bad isekai anime, and that this alone is enough to categorize Overlord as inherently bad. And yes, it's completely acceptable nowadays to dismiss an entire genre or subgenre of anime as universally unworthy or not worth watching because, well, basically, I've seen one anime from this genre that is bad, so the entirety must be bad as well. And again, this is based on little more than just prejudice. And I understand that there are a lot of mediocre isekai anime out there, where the standard plot is more or less retold without any changes. An absolute loser is brought into a new fantasy world, where he's overpowered, all the women love him, and he can solve every problem with his new powers, so even more women will love him eventually. But since he's as dense as a neutron star, he won't act on any of the advances. However, Overlord is precisely not that. It's not about the main character Ainz quickly becoming overpowered, and Alberto's attraction to Ainz is more annoying and embarrassing to him than anything else. Overlord is also billions of miles away from the typical blank slate character archetype that characters like Kirito and others represent. And besides, and I just want to point this out on basically this occasion, because entire YouTube channels have made a fortune by hating on anime like Sword Art Online and other isekai projects. But interestingly, this hate only started after the initial hype around Sword Art Online had passed. And when SAO was in its prime, surprisingly few people had anything critical to say about it. Probably because the isekai concept was still relatively new at this time and hadn't become the go-to standard, even though there were already other isekai anime like Inuyasha or Digimon out there, but these weren't as similar to Sword Art Online like many of the later isekai anime. In other words, this is more of a case of oversaturation within the genre, where you have to sift through 10 mediocre animes to actually find one good isekai anime. But the search behavior and expectations of viewers aren't something Overlord should be blamed for. It's just that people are so biased that they won't even give Overlord a fair chance as an independent standalone series. It's basically as if you read 10 bad or mediocre detective or romance novels, or get spammed with them on social media at every occasion, and then assume that all crime or romance stories must be bad by definition. And this isn't to say that you don't have the right to dislike a particular genre of anime or of any media, but it's a shame that Overlord isn't even given a chance to stand on its own, and isn't even criticized for the things that it is. Another accusation is that Ainz Solgon is completely overpowered from the very start and can't level up or develop even further. And I understand what people mean here, as Overlord isn't for those who want to basically to see the main character to simply get stronger and learn amazing new combat techniques as the story progresses. But just like in One Punch Man, the point isn't that Ainz gets physically stronger and stronger, or that every fight is a close call. Ainz is already at level 100, the maximum level. He can't become physically stronger, just like many of the other NPCs from the Grey Tomb of Nazarick. But I actually find this aspect to be brilliant, because character development in Overlord isn't just a matter of simply saying, okay, the character has leveled up 10 times and unlocked a new skill. Instead, it's much more about the psychological development of the characters, classical character development. For instance, Cocytus initially sees himself, up until Volume 4, as nothing more than a sword arm for the 41 players of Nazarick, someone who should mindlessly follow his overlord's orders, without his own input. However, thanks to Einzulgon, he undergoes dramatic character growth, and he begins to think independently about tactics and strategies, to plan ahead, to mentally flourish, and in the end, Cocytus is the one who works out a significant part of the attack strategy against the army of the Riestal's kingdom in Volume 14, and acts as a general. However, this mental development is subtle and can't be expressed in levels or skill points, and that's the case for many of the characters in Overlord. Their growth isn't about becoming stronger, but about advancing in character, and even with Einzulgon you can see how he gradually lets go of his hope to find his friends, the only remaining humans who still mean something to him on some level. And he comes to terms with the fact that the NPCs, the characters they created, are all that is left. And Ein's personal development becomes even more profound when you see how he evolved in the bonus novel. In the story with Evil Eye, Eins, who in that version is alone in the New World, without his guild, without Nazarick or the NPCs, and has a deep, deep sense of distance to his friends, was able to say farewell to them for good. Instead, he built a new life, and a new interpersonal relationship with Evil Eye and his new guild members, because he refounded Einzulgon, he refounded the Great Tomb of Nazarick, but as a different guild entirely, and essentially experienced a second life, filled with adventures and camaraderie. And this makes the current version of Eins, who can't let go, who can't just say goodbye to his old friends because he's still connected to the NPCs and the Great Tomb of Nazarick, all the more tragic. Another criticism is that Eins is never in danger and has never truly had to fight at his limit. And yes, it's true. If you go in with expectations that Eins constantly has to fight for survival, you will probably be very disappointed with Overlord. But that's generally not what the story is all about. And even then, this statement is also partially wrong, because Eins had to use all of his powers and resources, his items, his gear, and that of his other guild members, basically everything except world-class items at his disposal in his fight against Sheltier Bloodfallen. He had to mobilize every bit of strength that he could muster. And despite this, the outcome was extremely close, and Sheltier Bloodfallen would have actually won the fight without Aura's sneaky intervention, simply because Eins struggled with his emotions in the last crucial moment, causing him to hesitate briefly. And the fight of Eins in the Holy Kingdom was also exciting for a different reason. But all of this isn't going to say that such moments of tension, of struggle, of survival, of a matter of life and death aren't present in the story, but they are usually not found with Einzulgon or the NPCs of the Great Tomb of Nazarick. Because Overlord has an extremely well-written supporting cast, and these characters are interesting, and most importantly not overpowered, yet they find themselves facing Eins and Nazarick, and this creates an enormous amount of tension, as you never know which of these characters will survive in the end, who will be lucky enough to be resurrected, and who Eins will consciously decide to just let be dead instead. After all, Arshel could have survived if Eins had a different understanding of the word mercy, but it, according to the web novel, wouldn't be a nice way to survive. And again, Arshel's lucky. And in general, these well-written supporting characters who don't know the full extent of Nazarick's influence and who confront a power far beyond anything that they can even imagine are one of the anime's greatest strengths, because the series tells an incredibly engaging story with these characters even without Eins being present. Renan Klein, Arshel and her team, Brain Anglos' character development, Evil Eye's betrayal of Lakius, Platinum's true personality, and so much more, all fascinating, and you just keep wanting to know more. Which brings me to the last point. Overlord has extremely good and in-depth world building. Every item, every skill and every character trait is significant. How the various people and the various nations live and their perspective on life itself is very well and very intricately portrayed. For example, Demiurge naturally has a completely different perspective than Sarayusu Shasha or Emperor Jerknev, and the world building makes every move by Nezarec and Ainz exciting to follow, because the characters and the world they inhabit aren't just there for Nezarec to save or plunge into chaos, they exist as independent entities and nations. So even if Ainz, Ulgon and the Grey Tomb didn't exist, the entire conflict between the Empire and the Kingdom, overshadowed by the theocracy and its struggle against Zurnon and Platinum's looming influence, would be very interesting to watch, as would be the conflict between Slayn and the Elf King, the Dragon Kingdom struggling against the invasion of the Beastmen, and so much more. It would still be a complex, fascinating, and interesting world to watch. Even without an isekai protagonist, the anime would still be worthwhile, simply because the world is so incredibly well written. And again, so these are the major criticisms people have leveraged against Overlord in the wake of the release of the Holy Kingdom movie. And these were basically my thoughts and my rebuttals on them. And again, as I said, you don't have to like the anime or isekai as a genre in general, but I feel Overlord is often unfairly hated by people who don't really understand what it is actually about. However, there's one thing I can't defend, and that's the rather mediocre CGI animations, which make important parts of the anime look very off-putting. For example, the appearance of the Dark Young, which were supposed to be like a horrific moment, was horrific for another reason. Or the Army of Yaldabaoth also has seen better days, let's just put it that way. And yes, I also wish this wasn't the case, and I believe that the anime is rightly criticized for this aspect, this excessive use of CGI. And I, along with many others, would have preferred if everything was traditionally drawn and animated. But luckily there's a way to get around these CGI animations without losing anything of the story. It's called reading. The novels are extremely well written, and they are way better than the anime or the manga. And both the anime and the manga are also based on them. So go check them out if you're interested in Overlord, but if you don't want to watch the anime for whatever reason. And with that said, now it's your turn. Let me know what you think about the video, about the anime Overlord in general if you're new to the anime, and about the light novels and basically the points of criticism and my rebuttals. And with that said, please check out my German channel, my fantasy channel, and if you don't want to listen to my voice or accent, but are still interested in the things I have to say, I have made an AI channel, narrated by almost a woman, where I use AI voiceovers for my videos. And these channels are all linked down in the video description. Also, please check out my Patreon if you want to support me beyond just leaving a like or sub. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to my Patreons for supporting this channel, and as usual, I say my special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Bezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 022 Ron, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dan Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Lofrazer, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, oh hell no, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Kune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Sonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.